Hello and welcome to another update video about Bitcoin. And Bitcoin has dropped even further today, in line with what we said earlier in the previous videos and also yesterday in terms of the momentum indicators that were turning to the downside. However, nothing has been decided yet. So Bitcoin is staying within a certain range in which we can't really talk about a breakout into any direction. So in terms of what Bitcoin is doing here, you can see it straight away here. Bitcoin failed obviously in the last few days to break through this zone up here, this resistance zone between 47.5K and 48.3K. Up here is, for example, the 200-day moving average. That is exactly where it got rejected. It has then come down to that support level here one time and now another time. And it has managed to break through it. Did go down all the way to 43K. And I think it is currently it is going up, certainly. We should not be fooled to think that it's now going to go up just because of that long wick. Sometimes these long wicks get filled again. And it is, for me, at least currently looking like that we are retesting. So we came down, moved up, retested the previous previous support as resistance, and it could be that this is now the move to the downside. As long as we stay below this level here at 44.2K, I think it's going to go down further. Next support will be that region of 42.6, 42.7K. And if we drop below that, I'm seriously thinking about making the previous primary scenario the current primary scenario again, and that would then indicate that it is becoming more likely to go down straight away into this target area between 20 to 29K. At the moment, above this level of 42.7K, I think the primary expectation would still be that we are going to recover here and are going to go higher and are going to break that 200-day moving average and are going to move all the way up to 51K. That would also be in line with my S&P 500 analysis, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute, just to give you a brief understanding. We can see that one reason also why we are currently slowing down a little bit with that move down, even though it was really quite impulsive, what's happening here today. What happened obviously is that we were getting here on we are on the 1 hour chart now. So let's start on the 1 hour. But what you can see is that the price was just massively, or is still massively, oversold on the hourly chart. So there has to be a little bit of sideways movement or a little bit of a move up to recover that. In addition to that, on the 4 hour chart, you're also massively oversold, or maybe not massively, but certainly more oversold than you were the last couple of times. So this also indicates that, we should see a bit of recovery, and what you typically get is then a recovery all the way up to the 50 level of the RSI if we remain in the downtrend. On the 8 hour chart, not yet that much oversold, but what you can see here is that the MACD is continuing actually to push further down. So there is no slowing down of the downward momentum recognizable yet. And on the daily also, as I said before in the video, we have seen the bearish crossover on the daily. Normally that takes, it's all about probabilities, and more often than not, this takes longer than just 1 or 2 bars. Typically you see this play out for a while, at least a few days. So in my opinion, the correction isn't over yet, especially if you take a look at the chart here and the candle. It's a huge candle actually to the downside. I mean, we need to wait really how the daily candle is going to close, but for now, I think at least at the moment, I can't really see a shift in momentum yet. I think I would only consider that as soon as we see the 8 hour chart turn around to the upside again. And I had a few questions about, it's a bit confusing because the higher level time frames, for example, here on the weekly chart, it shows a bullish MACD crossover, whereas on the shorter time frames, you see it bearish. So what is going to win? Well, typically, of course, we don't know. That is the answer. But typically what you see is that it starts on the lower time frame. So especially the 4 hour, in my opinion, is relevant here for the shorter time frame. So when you see that turning bearish, that isn't too meaningful, but when it translates over to the 8 hour chart, so that you can see the 8 hour chart moving between bullish and bearish. I mean, when we made up here that bearish crossover on the 8 hour chart, I made you aware that we could see here a bit more of a correction coming, and I think this is playing out now. So the 8-hour chart is of course relevant, and also when we were at the top here, mentioned that on the daily, if this is playing out as a bearish crossover, then it will be very interesting to see how the price is actually going to react to it. We don't know how the price is going to react to it, but typically, of course, there will be a downtrend or downward move when you see the momentum shift to the downside and when you get these sell orders or sell signals triggered. But what we don't know, and we don't know that yet still, is that how is this daily MACD crossover, this bearish crossover, now translating over into the higher time frame. So at the moment it's still showing here on the weekly chart definitely, and maybe also the 4-day chart. Let me just see. Yeah, so on the weekly definitely, on the 4-day chart we can see it already turning around a bit, but let's say they still show bullish. So that would indicate that, yeah, certainly it's likely that we make a bit of a correction down here, but generally there is still more upside potential on the higher time frames, meaning that, yeah, the higher level trend to the upside is still at play. So unless that is now taken down by, for example, a daily bearish MACD crossover that will take a long time, the uptrend is still intact and the upward momentum on the higher time frames is still intact. So generally they are more meaningful, but it starts from the lower time frame. It will then translate over into the longer time frames, but we don't really know until it really plays out on the daily, for example, which is a very important one, how this is going to translate over, and is it really going to translate over into the 4-day chart and the weekly. So this is what we need to wait for. But in my opinion, what we've seen here previously is really that on the daily, this is where the decision is made, and we've seen here bearish crossovers here at this peak, and the bullish crossovers down here. So they can give you a hint, especially if we are here in a channel of how it's playing out. Overall, at the moment, the higher level uptrend is still intact, and as I said, above 42.7k, my primary scenario now is this one, that we go up first here in this wave B before we come down. So this would be a move to at least 51k, but then we need to see how is the price going to react to it. The 51 is the bare minimum it needs to do in this move up, but it can also go to 55. 61 would be the next fib level, and 65k. Yeah, but 65 I find fairly unlikely. But it needs to find support here at around 42.7. If it doesn't, then again, it's going to be more likely that it's coming down. Now, could we see this downtrend coming? Well, yeah, of course, we talked about it. But what is important as well is that the Bitcoin price was pretty much related. I mean, not 100%, but it moved a little bit in line with the S&P 500 recently. And I told you, and also the well, yeah, on my second channel I made my S&P 500 analysis a while ago, and we were, I think, here at the wave 3 peak. I told you that I expect a move into this target area here in green. That is a wave 4 correction. We have today come into the target area very nicely, and we can already see a strong reaction to that target area. Again, I don't believe here in coincidence. I think this is, again, TA playing out. I know a lot of people will say that all had to do with the Fed and whatever. In my opinion, this is not the case. Yes, of course, these can be triggers to really get these moves and these waves to play out and to start them maybe a little bit earlier or whatever. But we've been talking about this target area obviously a week ago or a couple of weeks ago. So this is now playing out, and it could be that this is already over now. We have seen quite a nice reaction to it, and we start to move up from here. Now this could already be that low, but it could also be that we move a little bit lower into the target area. That is what we don't know yet, or also as per the Elliott Wave method, you can't really calculate that even closer, but this is what has played out today, and we have seen a first reaction. And typically these target areas are the areas where I expect the price to go into, and these are possible buying areas. Of course, if you buy or not, that is up to you. But when we hit the target area today at 4,450, since then we actually moved up quite nicely on the S&P 500, and also on that also I think was a contributor for the Bitcoin price to drop today. Now, what does that mean? Now, medium term, it means that after that wave 4 completion, and again, we could drop a little bit further into the target area. It goes down to 4,400. Now, we could now turn around and move higher, and all the way to the wave 5. Now that would maybe land somewhere around 4,700, 4,800. That would make a new high, and that would then maybe mean for Bitcoin that we could really see in the next move that 51k level. So yeah, Therefore, this is playing out, makes me quite pleased or happy that we've actually hit that target area, and that gives me more confidence in this Elliott Wave count. So I expect here at some point the turnaround to the upside, and that would also mean some upside for certain stocks and shares, and possibly then also upside for Bitcoin, because even though I think it is sort of coincidence that it's following it at the moment, because it hasn't always done it, and I think it will decouple itself from the stocks and shares in the future as well. But for now, it's following it, and yeah, I think that could mean some upside for Bitcoin. Therefore, I remain currently with my primary expectation. And if the S&P 500 really has seen its swing low now, it could really mean that Bitcoin from here starts to move in this target area, certainly. All right, that is my view about Bitcoin. Hopefully you liked the update. If you did, please hit the like button, leave a comment and subscribe. And if you really like the content, then check out the channel membership. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye-bye.